everything to do with Trump had his name on it.
Yeah. And you look at that, it's a great point. I mean, he's a brand in many ways, but he's also, as I said, a man of action. And I'm fascinated with the way he's been so transparent, right? He's so part of it's theater, and he uses the theater, makes everything a big announcement. Everything's grand because he's selling to the people. You still need the support. He is not a king. He can't just dictate, right? And contrary to what his critics and the media will say about him, but he needs to sell it to the people. Look at his cabinet. Half the cabinet's former Fox News broadcasters. They're all attractive and they're all really well prepared at articulating the message.
But you have one ultra serious person, Scott Besant.
Yes.
You've got keeping that whole show on the road is one of the shrewdest, most level-headed, most ruthless, with all the charm, the elegant gay man routine. I am really so suave and smooth. Brutal operators on Wall Street. And I think, again, the extraordinary contrast. I mean, America is as bankrupt as Britain, if you actually look at the state of your public finance.
Absolutely.
But you've got somebody managing them who understands the market. Here, we have got useless financial bureaucrats doing it. And I think that, I mean, I've found the role of somebody like that, the role of somebody so transparently intelligent and so aware of the reality of financial markets, of so clever at manipulating them. He's using the same devices that he did when he was he was a poacher. He was running private equity and whatever, and he's now using those same techniques. Now he's gamekeeper, which is a way that no other central bank is doing. I mean, obviously he's in terms of sale of federal debt and whatever, he's going round the edge of the Federal Reserve, but doing it in astonishing. And I think we need to look at that extent. And I mean, I would guess, maybe people who know my American history better than I do, I think Besant looks to me to be of the same sort of caliber as an Alexander Hamilton. And if you look at that extraordinary setup of people, the founding fathers, the role of Hamilton, as opposed to the crazy rural idealists like Jefferson, that hard-nosed, brilliant sense of the market, the importance of trade, the importance of money, and so on, absolutely central.
I'm glad you brought up Scott Besant, who's a really good friend of mine. I saw him last week, and it's funny you mentioned Hamilton. We were in his office, and he had this grand picture of Alexander Hamilton. He really appreciates the history and appreciates Hamilton himself, and so it's fascinating to see him work. And you're right, he's probably the only non-Fox News person there, but he's getting better at it. He's doing media all the time. So even though he doesn't have the media background, like a Pete Hegseth or Judge Jeanine or whomever, he's getting the hang of it. I mean, he's on TV it must be 3 or 4 times a day. It's amazing. So because that's the whole idea. They're transparent, most transparent White House we've ever had. And they're doing everything in real time.
And they won't shut up, will they? I mean, Biden was a bit like the oracle at Delphi. It spoke once every 6 months. Whereas Trump will not shut up.
President Autopen, yeah, it must be driving the left crazy because it's just every day there's just more news. And when he took a weekend off and played some golf, they freaked out. Of course, started
they thought
rumors
he died.
They wanted him to die, but that's obvious. But they started this rumor mill that he was sick or that he was. I mean, it's completely heartless.
What you've been talking about there, what you call transparency, is it a new way of trying to do a kind of town hall democracy? In other words, are we using the new media and the old media too, effectively to turn a country of how many hundreds of millions you are? What is it, 400 and odd million?
350, 360.
Yeah, you're pushing.
Plus the illegal migrants, so it's probably 400. All of whom will be counted in the census, by the way. In
Absolutely. what you're doing is, isn't it? Trump is really trying to reconstitute something like a form of deliberative democracy.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, again, the role of, okay, Trump not king, but certainly as prince. If you look at the great leaders, the way Shakespeare represents the great leaders, they are always people who are ruled both by action and by speech. The extraordinary, the extraordinary figures like a Henry V or whatever in Shakespeare, that ability, because you said kings just order. Actually, all great kings persuaded. All great kings did exactly what we are talking about now. They had the art of taking people with them rather than compelling obedience. They won it willingly, which gave them both a personal power as well as a constitutional power. And I wonder, with all the gloom that we have about the fact that the electronic age is going to make traditional views of democracy and traditional views of the state impossible, I'm wondering whether in this extraordinary, chaotic way that America so often does, we're actually seeing something optimistic.
Oh, without a doubt.
And for me as a historian, again, Burkean, it is the extraordinary notion that those ideas that history isn't a dead ground, that it's not a corset or a straitjacket or manacles, but it's actually the source of constant renewal. In other words, what we're seeing now, are we? Maybe we're both getting old and bleary-eyed and need our cataracts sorting out, but are we actually seeing something like the vision of the founders reinvented for the new age?
I think so. It's happening in America. I hope it happens here, and I think it can happen here. Maybe I'm just a shameless optimist, but things were pretty bad in America, and the president just articulates in a very simple way. He doesn't have the oratory skills of an Obama or even Reagan, and yet he just says it like he tells the truth. He just kind of states the obvious.
Now, come. Don't let. I think the truth and President Trump is a shifting relationship. I mean, let's.
Well, he exaggerates, right?
Come on, let's not.
He
be
likes
too far.
hyperbole. He likes hyperbole, but
Yes, yeah.
look at what he's doing. I mean, he's stating the obvious, right? Okay, men should not play in women's sports. What is so crazy about that? That's not radical. That's Charlie Kirk would say the same thing, and they called him far right. It's an extremist because the extremist doesn't want a 6 foot man playing against their 5'6" daughter. Yeah, they've lost their minds, and so the same thing with net zero. Day one, shut it down, try to get some of that money back that was squandered by the Biden administration, and let's just use common sense, right? We're the biggest oil producer in the world. Let's pump some more. Let's get oil prices down. Let's regenerate the economy. I mean,
the gap on this issue between Britain and America is absolute. We have we have power prices here, electricity prices 4 times. Why industry is dying here. I suspect much of the dispute over pharmaceuticals, which is going on now, all sophisticated modern industry depends on access to cheap fuel. That was the power driver of that was the power driver of the Industrial Revolution on both sides of the Atlantic.